Hi everyone. So we've tried to do the video live and it wasn't working. So we've decided to use technology in another way to benefit us and yourself so you can get this information and you can get some tools to use. We're also going to chat a little bit about some of our programs on the retreat, but we're also going to give you something that you can leave with that you can, that will hopefully enhance your life today. So I'm talking today with Sidany Barclay-Steel. And Sidany's been a chaplain for 10 years. That's a long time. And I'm really looking forward to what she's going to share. And she's a transformational facilitator. She's a mom of 3. She also worked in the area of marriage and family therapy, where we all need help. And her area of expertise is intentional connections. Now, when you hear about how Sidany helps, especially mother-daughters, to connect, you're really going to be blown away, because I think this is something that we're missing, that we're lacking. I mean, I work with mother-daughters, but when I heard Sidany's, the format that she develops to help mothers and daughters connect, you're really going to be, she's going to talk, I'm going to get her to talk a little bit about it when I'm finished, so that you can hear some of what you're going to get when you come to this retreat. And if you're still on the fence, I hope that this will help you to make a decision. And I post something in the group this morning. I'm introducing Sidany, and I'm kind of going off track because it came to mind, where it says, I was reflecting last week and I thought, you know what? I don't know anything about cars, so I won't try to fix my car myself. If my car engine needs replacing, I will not go out there with screwdrivers and whatever else trying to fix my car, because I really don't know anything about it. I'm not a mechanic. Now, I'll take it to my mechanic, I'll leave it with him, fix it, go pick it up, pay and leave. Now, it's the same thing when it comes down to trauma and emotional well-being and emotional and pain and stuff that you've experienced. I find that so many people want to do self-help. Like, certain things that you've experienced, you can't do it on your own. Or if you do it on your own, it's going to take many years. And I always think about the fallout. The fallout of us not getting help is the children. If you have children, or your marriages, or your relationships, there's always a sacrifice. If you're going, you know what, I'm gonna do this myself. The retreat is happening, but I can't go to the retreat. And I think it's just a matter of priority, personally. I can't go to this retreat, but I'm gonna fix it myself. But you don't know what you don't know. It kind of would be like me going out there trying to change my car engine, no idea what tools I need, but I'm gonna go knock some things with my screwdriver and try to fix it. We had a car that broke down Sidany last year. And, we thought it was the battery, and we called the neighbor to come and jumpstart. It couldn't jumpstart. There's this church brother who's really good with cars. Back in the day, he used to fix BMWs, so maybe he felt he could fix our Skoda. So he came and he tuned her and he's really good with his hands, really good with cars. But he said, yeah, it's gone, it's done. And we decided we're going to spend any more money on it. We're just going to get it scrapped. So it's just parked outside, and our neighbor saw it. And he said, can I have a look? Our neighbor had a look, and the car is starting.
Wow.
Like, well, how did you get it to start? He said, oh, the battery's fine, he said. Nothing's wrong with the battery. But 2 people tried for a long time to start.
I have a car.
And fix other things, and they couldn't. But this neighbor fixed it. So what I'm saying is, when we've experienced certain things, you can't do it on your own, and not everybody will have the skill set to fix it. Now, I'm not saying I can help everybody. I can't. There's some people that I can't help, and that's fine with me. But there's a lot of people that we can help, and if you're here and you've not sought support and you've not accessed support to help yourself, I really want to encourage you not to suffer on, not to struggle on. Okay, so that's who Sidany is. She is her passion is to help individuals create connections that can heal brokenness and transform generations. And that's what we're about, the generational transformation. So, in November, the 21st, the 21st to the 24th, generational, we're talking about breaking generational cycles and helping people create intentional connections. So, Sidany, I know I kind of went off track a little bit, but I wanted you to tell the people just a little bit about how you work with people to create intentional connections.
Thank you, Joanna. It is good, man. It's taken us a while to actually get talking. Woo! It's taken us a while to get talking. So, Joanna, as you shared that I've been a chaplain for 10 years, and one of the things I realized is when I worked hospice was it's at that point where people were trying to connect, but it was a little bit too late. So over the years, these are patterns that I have seen that especially working with as a mother myself with children, and I realized it can be transferred outside of my home and outside of my hospital setting to help others. So first of all, we all have needs. When God created us, he created us with needs, not only physical needs, but emotional needs. In Genesis, he said it's not good for man to be alone. Now remember, Adam was not alone because Adam had Jesus and he had animals, so he was not alone. So that type of aloneness that God talked about in that moment was aloneness of not being able to fulfill his emotional needs. We all have those emotional needs. And when I talk with parents or when I talk with mothers or whoever I talk with, I talk about first understanding the emotional needs of your child, understanding your emotional needs. Because if your needs are not being met, then there's no way for you to validate or acknowledge the needs of your daughter or of the people who are important in your lives. Now, growing up in the Caribbean, I knew they loved me because I was fed, clothed, and sheltered.
Yes. That's the definition of love, isn't it?
Fed, clothed, and sheltered. You are loved. You don't need to ask if you're loved. But what I found was that emotional piece of me that I tried to fill with education and success did not work, and it blew up when I had kids because I tried to do the same thing: feed, clothe, educate, and put shelter over their heads, and it didn't work. So that's when I started to dig into how do I connect? How do we connect with each other? How do I connect with my daughters so that it makes sense to them? Because even though I was getting food, clothing, and shelter, there were days when I wanted more. And I often say I got all they had, but it was not all I needed. So my family gave me all they had, it was not all I needed. So what I take individuals through in connecting with each other is called the connection cycle. Now, if you've experienced trauma, your connection cycle is messed up. Let's just say if you've experienced trauma or have not experienced connection at the level that God has created you to experience it, then you will go through what is called the dysfunctional connection cycle. But there's also functional one. So where do you want me to start, Joanna?
I think let's because I mean you said something so important there. You said if you've experienced trauma, then you're broken in terms of connection. I'm paraphrasing. I might have missed what you said there. Are there any exceptions to the rule?
No, because trauma, so how do I put this? Trauma affects how we connect. I experienced trauma growing up, right? And I have been educated. I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I did a bachelor's degree in counseling. So if there's anybody who should know how to connect, it's me, because I have all that head knowledge. I have it. It's there. But because of how I experience connection, that's what I gave to my children. And that's why I'm so intentional about generational transformation.
And we have to say that again. Because of what I got, that's what I gave. And
even though I was so educated.
It doesn't matter how much head knowledge you have. And I mean that head knowledge is also biblical head knowledge. Because
True.
Sometimes, and you may meet these people too, it's the head knowledge that they have. They have lots of head knowledge in terms of scripture, because this is the problem, Sidany, that I find, that there are people who have that scriptural head knowledge. And because they have it, they don't feel that they need any help from anyone else. Because
Can I stop right there? Because the Bible says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And this is what I do all the time with churches. It blows my mind. I say, okay, great. The Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. How many have been in church for the past 15, 20 years? Good. How many you still have problems with forgiveness? Silence. So are you really being transformed? Yeah. Because even though sometimes we dull down emotions and the things of our heart, when everything we do it from a place of emotion. Listen, I have head knowledge that I need to get up and go do stuff. But if I don't feel too right, it's harder. So it tells me that my heart needs to be clean, so that when the word comes into my mind and it goes to my heart, that's where the seat of the transformation most times comes from. So yes, people say I have the Bible knowledge, I have the word of God, but this guy David Ferguson talks about your emotional cup. How is your emotional cup? If you've experienced trauma and have not taken time to heal, and you say, oh, I just put in the back of my mind, that's not true. Because what is inside has to come out.
Has to come out.
So you go to church sometimes and you see somebody and say, oh, how are you? And they just snap. That's because that emotional cup, no matter how much they read the word of God, that's why God gives us forgiveness. It's a tool for healing. And he knew that unless your emotional cup, unless your heart is at a place where it doesn't have bitterness, resentment, overall anger and hatred, if your heart is filled with all of that, there is no way the word can transform you. So no matter how much you read the Bible, you will still have that space in you where you snap at people, or you get bitter, or the unforgiveness. They say unforgiveness is like giving poison to yourself, except expecting somebody else to die from it. I know I said a whole lot, but the word in your head, if your heart is not open, your mind cannot be transformed. When the word comes in, if your heart is filled with bitterness, resentment, pain, and trauma that you've not taken time to ask God to heal you from, the word will not find a good ground to sit in.
Here's the thing, Sidany, and I'm reflecting on those who might say, well, I'm not bitter, angry, and all those things. Before I processed my trauma, it wasn't in my conscious mind. Yes, so I buried it as a child, tried to function, tried to do life until the day when I couldn't do life anymore without processing it. It was my stop day. I still remember that day very clearly. I couldn't do life anymore without dealing with that. But I was this calm person on the exterior. I was busy doing lots and lots of stuff in church. Nobody would know that anything was going on with me. And to be honest, I wouldn't say I was a bitter person or angry, but still, there was so much shame that the word couldn't have the effect that it needed to have. And the thing is, I didn't know that it was shame. So my defensiveness, my tendency to withdraw, my tendency to shut down, and I tell myself that I'm an introvert, so it's easy for me to be on my own. Well, I just loved that, because then I didn't have to try to connect with anyone. I had walls to prevent people from connecting with me. Now, none of those things are bitterness and anger, all those kind of things, but I still was in a space where the word couldn't have the effect on me that it needed to have. I'm telling you, healing pulls you closer to Christ than anything else.
That's true. And you use a very important word, shame. Shame says, I am bad.
Yes.
I am not worthy.
Not
and if
enough.
you have that thought, how do we experience God? I'm telling you, well, for me, I find that the way I do relationships in the physical, it's how I do God in the spiritual.
That's it. That's it. That's just it. There's no way, I say that there's no way around it, and it can't be argued with.
And that comes from, okay, so let me tell you, when I was growing up, most times I was not the best teenager. Let's just put that out there. Most times when my name was called was because I did something that was not a good choice. And so now if I make a bad choice, for example, if I don't get up and worship as I say I would, I hide from God. That's really weird, because you can't hide from God. But I feel I spiral down into a place of I can't go because I broke a promise, or I can't go because I did something, I didn't do what I told him I would, or I can't go to him because I've done this before. That is childhood right there.
Of course.
That is childhood right there, where I would hide if I did something that was not appropriate. So, or trauma, it doesn't have to be like you experienced difficult things like abuse, or it doesn't have to be that, but trauma can be you didn't get what you needed. The connection, talking about intentional connection, I did not get that. And that limited, I am growing into a different space. I have grown into a different space with God, where I realized, oh, he loves me anyway. The love is not based on merit. It's not big. It's not like, oh, major trauma, but not in growing up in a space where you don't feel connected, you don't feel heard. That affects you into adulthood.
Absolutely. So in terms of the intentional connection, let's talk about how would you apply this? Say somebody who we know, you and I know, that somebody who's experienced abuse, say an adult in an abusive relationship, would struggle to connect with the child. Is there any way this adult can leave this abusive relationship and do healthy connection without healing?
No. Because you're trained in okay, so let me talk about myself. When I moved out of state, I moved to another state, and my daughter was acting up. And I was like, I'm buying clothes. I am and I wasn't in an abusive relationship. I'm talking about my experience and how it worked in my situation. I was buying clothes, I was buying shoes, education was important, I was worshiping with them. But this kid would not get it. I was trying to connect with her the way I was connected with. That's not what she needed. Yeah. I had taken her out of her home that she knew for 6 years, from friends, from norms, and I couldn't hear what she was saying. So how can I connect with her when I am not hearing what she was saying? She had a need, when we talked about emotional needs, she had an emotional need of wanting to be, she wanted attention. For me, based on where I came from, attention was, you are fed, I'm sending you to the best school, I'm worshiping with you at night, I'm pouring the word into you. Still acted up. Until I realized that I too had emotional needs that I needed to have met, because I moved from a place where everybody was that I knew to a new place. So in this place, I needed to be accepted. So guess what I was doing? Working hard at work to be accepted. So I had my needs not being met. Hers weren't being met. So I had to take that time to talk to a friend of mine who's a therapist to process out what's going on.
Yeah.
Why am I not getting this child? I'm doing everything and she's going crazy at 6. She's doing things I don't expect. Why can't I connect? Once I put those pieces together, I was like, aha, I was able to connect. Behavior changed.
Behavior change. The behavior tells a story. I always say that. So let's talk to the mother who's trying to connect with the child who is problematic. And knows that I'm doing problematic, because we know that. So, and it doesn't matter the age of the child. Let's talk about the mother. What does a mother need to do to connect with a child that the connection isn't happening?
So, one of the things I would encourage that mother to do is to identify, I am very big on emotional needs. Why? If your child is acting out, when I act out, there's a need that's not being filled. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to get your attention. There's something that's going on, I'm trying to get your attention. So acting out in the dysfunctional connection cycle, it's an initiation of connection. Acting out is to initiate connection. Now, when the child is doing that acting out, what are they wanting? And the caveat is, if mother doesn't know her needs and how her needs are being filled, she will not be able to help that child to identify their needs. So one thing I tell parents, identify the emotional needs of your child. Know at least the top 10 needs so you can identify which one is coming up. My daughter, I have 3 of them. she'll come and she'll be like, or probably she starts hitting her sister, and I'm on the phone a lot. If I'm on the phone a lot and she starts hitting her sister, I'm like, okay, let's put everything down. This is a time for us to connect. So once I see, and I tell them, this is what I tell them. If you really want to talk with mommy, say, mommy, I need to talk with you now. So you have that conversation with that child. Teach that child how to connect with you. Say, I see you're rolling on the floor, or if it's a teenager like me, I see you're acting up. Let's talk. Can I hear your heart? Be present with that child. Take that time to be present.
I'm kind of bubbling over because I'm thinking, so there's so many mothers and fathers too who really don't know how to have that conversation. And that's some of the things that we will teach you at the retreat. How do I have this conversation? Because a 15-year-old can roll on the floor too. A 25-year-old, a 30-year-old, their rolling on the floor looks different, but it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
And we want to teach you how to be able to have that conversation so you and your child can have a different kind of relationship. But I know that if Sidany didn't do her healing, she wouldn't be able to hear her daughter. You wouldn't even.
No, I wouldn't.
You would just think, what's this rude child? I'm on the phone, be quiet, I'm on the phone, you know? And you
because then,
that.
You know how we think our children are, they can wait.
Yeah.
But if mother values herself and sees herself as worthy, she will do the same for the child. I had to move from that place where kids are seen and not heard to say they're valuable, they're worthy, they have something to say. And one of the things I teach, it's an acronym called PALS. Be present, be aware, listen, then serve. Most times, it's a difficulty of being present, being there where your being is there. Put on the phone, the work needs to be done. Yes, the table needs to be cleaned, but to be present, just sit there and just talk. Because most times
it's difficult, Sidany, to be present when, and I talk about being triggered by the needs of your child. It's difficult to be present when what they need, I never got, and I don't know how to do that. Or to be present when what they're saying triggers something with me because that's a deficit that I have that's not being healed. Therefore, I can't give it. And being present don't mean give money. Being present don't mean buy things. Being present don't mean bending over backwards. Being present just means, can you hear me and my heart and what's going on for me now? And oftentimes, that's the difficulty. We can't hear it.
We can't hear it. When I do this workshop, I say to the individuals, when was the last time you felt your toes? Simple, but when was the last time you felt your toes? When was the last time you stopped to feel your heart beating? I talk about functional anxiety, how mothers operate from a space of functional anxiety a lot. Because there's so much going on, we're not present with ourselves. We cannot be present with our children. It doesn't work. You cannot be present with your children if you're not present with yourself. So do you know your triggers? Do you know the things that I was talking at church here, then I told them I am working through people pleasing. I know my trigger. Because that's how I got attention when I was growing up. I pleased everybody.
It worked.
It worked. I figured it out.
Yeah.
I figured out the magic and I did it.
Yeah. So why are you as an adult still doing that?
It's because healing is a process.
Yeah, thank you very much. So you don't just grow it out.
You don't grow it out. Healing is a process. There are times when I still have to talk to myself. Last night we went out. Just last night. And it was 12 midnight and everybody was having pizza. And I know my stomach. Pizza is not my friend at midnight.
You didn't.
No, it's not my friend at midnight. They were like, oh, eat, aren't you hungry? Everybody's eating. And I had to talk to myself, Joanna. Because my initial response was, oh, it's my friends. I have to please them. And I can always take some Zantac and feel better. But I had to talk myself through this thing. No, I cannot have pizza. I know the effects of pizza on my body at this time of the night. So even last night, even though I consider myself who have worked with therapy and all that, there are still things that will trigger. And it's because I got the tools through the work that even when the trigger comes, it was easier for me to say, no, I'm good, I'll drink some water, or you have an apple, I'll probably eat a piece. So it's the tools that you learn at the retreat. It's the tools that we will give you through the intentional connection cycle. You'll know where you are. If your child initiates connection and they feel not heard, you will see that. You'll be, okay, they initiated at this time, they didn't feel heard. And you know what's going to happen next. So you can stop it before it spirals downward, especially if you have teenage children.
My son's not a teenager. I mean, the eldest. And I mean, this cycle is kind of like scripted for him. It really is. Because we will be here and the day will be miserable. And I'm wondering, why are we miserable? Everybody's miserable. And then I have to do, okay. So I have to stop myself. We connect, how he connects and how he receives it, and everything calms down and all is right with the world again, because he needed that contact. And
so you took away his loneliness.
Yes, yeah, because he needed it. And even though we're here and we're busy and he's doing school and I'm responding to school, he needed something special. So I had to learn how to connect with each child individually.
I have three different children. One loves respect and autonomy. One loves to be in my bed every morning at 8 years old. And the baby just wants to do her own thing. And I had to learn that they are not one size fits all. But the fact that I am more in tune with my emotional needs, and I know when to say I need a break, and I know what it takes to connect with myself, it makes it easier to connect with them. Because This is what happens. They initiate connection and they don't have the words to tell you this, but as an adult, think about this. You initiate connection. You're trying to talk to your husband, and he's watching cricket, soccer, football, or whatever. And you don't. So what happens? You don't feel heard. So when you don't feel heard, then you start feeling unworthy. Because if you were worthy, they would have listened or picked up on your cue. You don't feel worthy. So what you do, you isolate. We go by ourselves, either emotionally or physically, we isolate. After we've isolated, then we start lacking trust, because this person did make me feel worthy. I didn't feel like I was valuable, so I can't trust this person. So you try to start finding value somewhere else. I go on Facebook and start looking what's going on in the world. I start trying to find value there. Or kids would try to start find value outside. They'll start to try and find value in their dolls or whatever. So then they go into that space of aloneness, because those things do not fill the need for connection that they have with you. Nothing will fulfill that need for connection that you have with your husband. No matter how much you go hang out with your girlfriend, when you come back home, you still feel alone, because you didn't want to connect with your girlfriend. You wanted to connect with your husband. So once you feel alone, then what young people do, which is so important, that as mothers and as parents, we hear this, they start forming unhealthy connections. So guess what? Trauma is beginning to continue its work in our families and in our generations.
So into the generations. And can I just say that this might, even though your child might be whatever age they are, they might not be the 5-year-old, 8-year-old, 13-year-old like our children. The same way it might be the 30-year-old who's acting, it might be the 3-year-old in the 13-year-old that needs the love and the care and the attention. So, because we resort back to these childlike behaviors when we need that connection, when we never had it at that stage in our lives. Now, growing up, Sidany, I know I was loved because of what my parents did. And now they tell me, but back then I can't identify specific things. I mean, they stayed alive for me, and that's how they knew how to show love. My children needed to experience love in a different way. And I had to learn that. Now, what I had to do to learn it, as you said that you did, was to heal that wounded child in me that never had it, so that I could give it, not only to my children, but to my husband, to
Mm-hmm.
people in my life, to have, so I can have healthy, close, connected relationships that are meaningful and fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
I know that we could go on forever, we could go on all day, but I want to kind of end it here so that people know, just kind of give people a taste of what they're going to get at the retreat and the stuff that we're going to be helping you to work through. Now, also, I'm just thinking, Sidany, this week I'm having a promotion. And as we're talking, I like to help people to solve the problem. I like to leave people with something.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to put a, about this video, the code, so you can get 50% off, 50% off. From tomorrow, it's not 50. So the promotion is not going to be that. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're watching this video today, Sunday, the 15th of September, 50% off my audio. It's a three-part audio on healing your inner child, so that you can be accessible and available. We really want
Mm-hmm.
you to have the tools, and this kind of will start the work before you get to the retreat, and we will
Mm-hmm.
carry on the work with you when you get there. I
Mm-hmm.
hope we only have 20 places, and it's first come, first serve. 20 places, lock it down. I'm hoping to do that at the end of September. So if you're not in and you're thinking about, maybe you should prioritize it, put off something to prioritize this, because really this is going to affect the generations in your life to come. Really. And
Yes.
it will change your nieces and your nephews. It will just change everybody in your life. I said to one client, I said, she was, upset about not being there for siblings. And I said, the best thing that you can do for them is heal. And as she's doing the healing work, it's already having an effect on her siblings. So it's not just her children that are affected, it's her siblings' children that will be affected because of the work that she
Mm-hmm.
did. That's how powerful healing is.
It is, it is. And Joan, I just wanted to let them know what I will be working through with each person at the retreat, and I'm happy it's small, so we can really do some good work,
Yeah,
is
definitely
helping
small.
you to identify what are your emotional needs. What were they like when they when you were a child? Were they met? Are they being met right now? How can we help you to meet those needs so you can meet the needs of others? And keeping that emotional cup clean, so you can continue to overflow with the joy that God has given you. And
Amen.
then, most importantly, to learn the connection cycle.
Yeah.
Learn the intentional connection cycle and to use the tools. There's a tool that I use, it's called PALS, being present, aware, listen, and serve, and how you can integrate that into your daily life and to the life of those you want to connect with. Because I believe legacy through connection is what makes a world of a difference. We create lasting legacy through intentional connections.
I agree. I agree. I believe. I hope that, we're going to see you there to come. And I mean, we're chatting for what, 20 minutes? We're going to be with you at the retreat for 4 days. And the retreat is so packed full of, what I'm doing, Sidany, is at the retreat, and I'm going to work on the program this week, is I'm front loading the retreat with grounding strategies, and
Mm,
then we go into processing and give you these,
mm,
tools. So when you leave after that 4 day, it's not the kind of retreat that you leave on a high, in terms of high, feeling nice, and you go home and then life is just carrying on as normal. It's the kind of retreat that you leave feeling high, you're going to be relaxed, and you're going to have tools, so that when you go home and you open that door and you need whatever you need, you're going to know how to deal with it. When you go back to work,
exactly.
these are tools that will take you through the rest of your life, really.
Yes, yes. And they'll have them with them because life goes on. We're always connecting. We're always
Yes.
healing. Healing is a process.
It's a process. It is. I hope I'll see you there.
You
Thanks,
too.
Sidany. I know I'll see you there. I hope
Yeah, I'll be so bundled up they'll only see my eyes.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad. The weather is not that bad. Well, it's November, so it probably will be bad. So
You only see my eyes. So y'all take a good look down because then you're going to only see my eyes.
so get used to her face now, because she
Yeah, because only eyes only.
she won't be showing you at the retreat. I'll see you soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.